Good afternoon, everyone. This is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews, and I am your literary ambassador. And today I have Bonita Brown on my channel today. Welcome, Bonita.
Thank you so much, Queenie, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Okay, tell us a little about yourself.
Sure. My name again is Benita Williams. It's my married name, but my pen name is Benita K. Brown, and that's mostly how people identify my books is through Benita K. Brown. I was born and raised in Providence, Rhode Island, and when I was very young, my family moved to North Carolina, where I now reside. I am married to my wonderful husband, Andre, and we have a little kitty named Pearl. So that's a
All
little
right.
about. Mhm.
What do you do when you're not writing?
When I'm not writing, gosh, I'm always writing, but when I'm not writing, I like to travel. I do like to travel. I love cooking. Cooking is something my mom always did. She always invited all the neighbors over and things. There was always food and plenty of food for everyone. So I kind of picked that up from her. I love cooking. I love entertaining. I love baking even. And so those are some of the things that I like to do when I'm not writing.
How did you choose the genre that you're in?
Well, interestingly enough, I don't particularly have a certain genre that I write in. When I started writing, I was very interested in poetry. That's my kind of like my first love. And so the first few books that I wrote were basically books of poems and poetry. But I like to experiment with different genres. So not only poetry, but I also have a book of like Christian fiction I do. I have a daily devotional book. I had my first novella that I did. And now most recently I have a personal self-help and development book. So I just kind of play around with different genres. I wouldn't box myself into one particular genre.
Okay, we can talk about your books. You can go tell me about your books. You can hold it up, talk about it.
Sure. Okay. So the book here that I have is that good. Can you see it? It's called
Yes.
Everything by Faith. And this is my first book of what I would like to call personal growth and development. It's basically my blueprint for how I live my life, the decisions that I make, what I decide to do. And it's basically talking about how to utilize faith in every aspect of your life. When you're making your daily decisions, when you're doing certain things, how do you use your faith? How do you incorporate your faith into your daily life routine? And what I discovered is that we all have this invisible power available to us, but not many of us really know how to utilize it and how to tap into it effectively in order to manifest the dreams and the desires that we have. And so this book serves as like a blueprint for how do you manifest the things that you want out of life, and how do you tap into that power to make your daily decisions. So that's what Everything by Faith is really about.
Okay. You want to talk about your other books?
Sure, I can. So like when I first started, again, I wrote a book of poetry. The very first book that I published was back in 2009, and it's called If I Had $1,000,000 and Other Spiritual Poems. And that book came as a result. It was during one Christmas, and I love giving gifts. That was my big thing. I love giving gifts to all my family members. I've been doing it ever since I was a young little girl. And this particular Christmas, I really didn't have a lot of money to give, like to buy gifts and things like that. So I just started thinking to myself, what can I give that money can't buy? And I really wanted to give my family my heart. And so I wrote a poem called If I Had $1,000,000. And it basically goes into what I would do with the $1,000,000, how I would help all my family members and things like that. And then I bought this like 73-cent little poinsettia, flower, and I attached that poem and attached the flower to the back of the poem, and that's what I ended up giving as Christmas gifts to all of my family members. And there wasn't a dry eye in the place. Everybody was in tears. I was like, oh, that's so special, that's so sweet. So really, If I Had $1,000,000 really was birthed out of that. And so I just started writing. I've always wrote poems and different things like that for whatever situation I was dealing with or going through. I would write poems, things that were personal to me. But then I decided to what if you share that gift with other people? There may be some other people that may be going through things and they want to heal, or they want to, put their thoughts down on paper and things like that. And so I just wanted to start generating like a book of poems. And then just one thing led to another. And I ended up writing my book of daily devotionals that also came during a difficult time of my life. My then husband was going through some medical issues, and he was in the hospital a lot. And so that book was really birthed out of trials, tribulations, going through things, and really staying true to the word of God, and kind of like, how do you navigate your life? The book is called My Life, God's Way. How do I navigate my life the way that God would want me to navigate my life, no matter what circumstances I'm going through at the time? So that's a book of daily devotional. And then again, just exploring with different genres. I wanted to write a Christian fiction, which came out in 2016, and that's called Elevator 16. And it's really a love story. I'm a hopeless romantic, so it's really a love story about a guy and a girl. And does true love really stand the test of time? You always hear that cliche, true love stands, the test of time. True love, it battles all things, it hopes all things, believes in all things, So it's really talking about that, but from a young adult Christian perspective. And so it's a really good, feel good type of love story, if you will. And like I said, most recently I wrote a sequel to If I Had $1 Million, which talks about now that I have $1 million. And so that speaks about faith in the present tense. That speaks about now faith is, we always quote the scripture, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, and the things, evidence of things not yet seen. And so it really speaks on, how do you make your faith present? How do you really tap into that now faith and to manifest the things? I have seen miracle signs and wonders in my life. I have seen some things that I know was supernatural, that I know there was nobody but God. I know there was no way it could have been done except through by faith. And so that book is really to encourage people to stir up their faith, to increase in faith, because your faith can be increased. And so it really speaks to that. And then I lost my mom back in 2012, and I don't know if we get more into that or not, but again, as a way of healing, I always find strength in words and comfort in words. And so I wrote a book of poems in her honor. It's called Look to the Hills. That was one of her favorite scriptures, Psalms 121, look to the hills from which cometh my help. And so the book is loosely based on that passage of scripture, but it talks about just poems, love poems to my mom, everything that she ever taught me, the lessons that I've learned, the things that I'll continue to carry on, her legacy, making sure that she still remains in our hearts and in our minds and things like that. So it's like a tribute to her. And so I wrote that book in 2013, 2014. And then most recently, like I said, this book of personal growth and development is just that. Everything by faith is just how I live my life, the blueprint for how I live my life, and what so many of us have available to us if we just take the time to really tap into that invincible power that we have, that strength that we have.
Okay. So familiar.
Yeah.
Did you go to CBLR? Were you there this year?
I was not there this year. I was supposed to have been there this year.
Okay.
I paid my money to be there this year. Yes, I was on the schedule to be there this year. However, my husband ended up having surgery.
Okay.
And it was something that was unavoidable, something we didn't even see, happening, but it happened right there around the time for the retreat. And so what I ended up doing was sending my representative. I have a manager who went in my stead, and so she was there on my behalf, and she had all my books and stuff there.
Really?
At the retreat.
Okay.
Her name is Amanda. Yep.
I didn't go to the retreat. I came to book fair, but
okay.
I was coming.
Yes.
I didn't tell nobody. Everybody was like, "Are you coming?" I was like, "I don't know.
You don't know.
My aunt took me up there, and we went.
Okay.
Everybody was like, "You look familiar. Are you?" I said, "Yes, I am."
Yeah.
So, but this year, are you going this year?
I'm not sure. I haven't really even looked at everything for this year yet. I mean, I'm still planning out. And if I'm in the area, in town, definitely I'm making my plans now for where I'm going to be for this upcoming year. So looking forward to it. I heard a lot of great feedback. I mean, it was a lot of fun, and even Amanda like I was saying, the lady that went in my stead, she learned so much, and she was like, wow, it's so massive. It's just a lot going on during that weekend. And so I was very proud to hear that. Very glad to hear that.
Yeah, I won for next year.
Oh, really?
I'm super stoked to go.
Absolutely.
I am
Congrats
super
to
stoked.
you.
And that's all I do. I love Christian fiction.
Awesome.
That's my thing. So I was
Okay.
in heaven when I was there.
Okay.
I was in heaven.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
Next question. Where do you usually get your ideas from?
That's a good question. So a lot of my ideas stem from just experiences that I've had throughout my life, to be honest with you. I'm a very imaginative little girl growing up. I had a big imagination, huge imagination. So I was always fantasizing, always thinking about things, stories, different situations, different characters, and how we want to resolve this issue or that issue. And so I think as I grew up, those stories just started developing more and more, and I realized that there's a place for them, and I need to really get it out. Also, growing up, I was very much influenced by my mom because she was a librarian. And so being a librarian's daughter, I was always introduced to new books. I was reading all the time. I was doing book reports in the summer. I mean, you name it, I was doing it when it comes to books and things like that. Yeah. So you understand. So absolutely. So I think just developing that curious imagination, always looking to escape, whatever reality I was in at the time, and having a very creative, active imagination helped me to do that. And so I think the stories just kind of came from that, really.
Okay. Is there any author that influenced you in any way when you was younger or now?
Well, several books that I remember in my youth growing up as a child. Judy Blume, anything by Judy Blume. I remember reading her avidly. And I also remember there was a story, I'm not sure who the author is, but there's a story called Don't You Remember? It's a book about a little girl named Tate. And Tate reminded me so much of myself. And she was, kind of a little know-it-all, a little bossy, nothing could get past her. She had memory like an elephant, that type of thing. So it was like, don't you remember? And, the one big thing that she actually forgot was her birthday. She didn't remember it. And it just, that story really spoke to me because it just reminded me of, seeing another little Black girl, in a storybook that kind of had my personality and had some of the characteristics that I embodied. So it's important, I believe, to see yourself in film and movies and books and things like that to be relatable. It is very, very important. So yeah, I think I was influenced a lot growing up. I was influenced also by another story. I think it's called Mufaro's Daughters, Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters, or something like that. It was about princesses, that would grow up to be queens, in Africa. And it was very, very, very moving story. And again, those characters I could relate to. So books like that was, really my inspiration growing up. As I got older, of course, and I love poetry and things like that. Of course, Dr. Maya Angelou. You've got Terry McMillan, Zora Neale Hurston. All of those played a part. Robert Frost, I remember. Most recently, I think his name is, what is his name? It's Sparks. I can't remember his first name. But he has a lot of books that have turned into movies now. I'm trying to remember Nicholas Sparks. Yeah. So yeah, I remember, those type of influences are kind of more now so in my adult life.
Okay. What do you consider to be your best accomplishment thus far?
Wow, that's a good question. My best accomplishment thus far. Well, I think as it relates to just being an author, number one, aspiring to be an author and actually having books published. I think it's a huge accomplishment, not just dreaming about it, but actually doing it, actually putting pen to paper and doing it, I would say is a big accomplishment, because a lot of people get ready to get ready, but they never really, take action. I actually have a writing course called Getting Ready to Write because I know of a lot of people who through the years, they have an idea for a book, or they've got great concept for a book and things like that, but they never really take the action. And the first thing you have to do is just commit to writing it down. Commit to writing it. Put the pen to the pad and just write. That's the first thing that I encourage anyone to do. You never know how far you can go if you never get started. And so really, that's the biggest thing, is just getting started. And next to that, not to sound super spiritual or anything like that, but I would say my greatest accomplishment is definitely having a relationship with God, having a relationship with God at a young age. I was very fortunate that I got saved when I was 15 years old. And my mother was one who just kind of kept Christ in front of us, and she just lived the life that she talked about. And it just made me want to know more about the God that she served. And so when I developed my own relationship, it has been the things that I've seen and gone through in my short time here. I just don't know how I would have gone through them without having a relationship. So I would also say that, one of the biggest accomplishments for me personally is just having a personal relationship with Christ.
How do you feel about reviews?
Reviews are good. I mean, you can use reviews. I welcome any constructive criticism. Reviews are good because they let you know what people are into. A lot of times, lets you know if you're on the right track, and it lets you know kind of what's relevant, I think. So I love reviews, and I think that especially in books, but also in movies and different things like that, that reviews can be a positive strength if you know how to use the information. If you know how to use the feedback that you're given, and really make the necessary adjustments, but without losing, who you are in the process.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. What inspires you to write?
My inspiration, it comes from a number of things. Again, I think the biggest thing is just my personality and kind of like the ideas, the stories that I have in my head. I love the element of discovery. And so I always try to incorporate the element of discovery. I love education. I love to read books that educate me, that I can actually learn something from it and say, oh, I didn't know that, or oh, let me look into that, or I love stories that are research based, where you can, go dig up information and find out something that you didn't know that was common knowledge. So, and of course, I love the stories to be entertaining and things. So I think it comes from a number of things. When I write, especially personal, like growth and development books and things like that, I'm always inspired by my relationship with Christ. I'll get an idea, and I know it's a God-given idea, and then I'll just take action and write on it. And so a lot of inspiration comes intuitively.
Okay. What's your testimony?
Wow, which one? I have a number of testimonies. I think the one that I want to share, it goes back to my mom. Back in 2012, 2012 was a tough year. It was a really, really tough year. Not only did I lose my mom, but I lost so many people. It was like 12 people that I knew personally. And in some way, shape, or form, I had a relationship with. And so losing 12 people in 1 year is devastating. And then for, like I said, one of those people to be your mom, and the other one to be your spiritual father, the one that kind of nurtured your spiritual growth and stuff like that through the years. It was very, very tough for me. And I'm a caregiver at heart. I've always been a caregiver. And so taking on the role of, being a caregiver for my husband, who has a disability. I work in the field. I've worked 20 some years in the nonprofit sector, helping people with disabilities to fight for their rights and equality and inclusion.
Thank you.
So I've always been an advocate, and a caregiver. And I've played those roles. And what ended up happening is, I basically stopped taking care of myself. And sometimes the caregiver forgets that they need care for too. And so I fell into that. And I suffered with something that mimicked like a stroke. I went through a tough time where I was unemployed. I was out of work for a period of time on short-term disability because of it, because of the lack of self-care. And it was during that time that I realized that if I don't take care of myself, then I won't be any good to anybody else. And so I ended up, taking some time off, really reevaluating my life and reevaluating, how can I incorporate self-care into my daily regimen, and how can I have a regimen of success. I don't just want to, work all the time, write all the time, things like that. I want to be healthy. I want to be in my right frame of mind. I want to be a help to other people, but I want to do it in a way that doesn't hurt me at the same time. So I had to go through some things and learn some things. And so during that process, there was a message that came from the mess, basically. And during that process, was birthed a new purpose, and that purpose is called Restination. It's like destination, but with an R, Restination. And what this is a transformational program for women and high achievers who, again, don't take the time out for themselves, and they run the risk of overwhelm, burnout, and exhaustion because they're trying to be super, super successful, and they're not taking the time that they need to take care of themselves, to refuel, to renew their mind, and to refocus or repurpose, to have sometimes you got to make pivots in life. You got to come up with a new purpose, a new vision, and not knowing when to make those adjustments in life can be detrimental as well. So I'm about preventative measures. You don't have to wait until, you're stressed out to the max, until you're reached a point of burnout and exhaustion, that you really can do some things now so that you don't head down that road, because it's a hard road to come back from. You can come back from it, but it's a hard road to come back from. So that's my purpose now, is I just want to encourage women to, take care of themselves, We have to do that. So.
What has been the hardest thing about writing?
The hardest thing about writing? I would say probably the hardest thing. I love to write, so it's really hard for me to say that there's one part that's actually hard for me. I love the whole process of writing. I love the process of discovery. I love to see where the characters are going to take the story, so that kind of thing. But I would say it would be probably in the marketing and distribution, because I write to write, if that makes sense. I write literally for the love of writing. And I don't think about the business side of writing as much as I should. I'm typically, writing stories. I've got tons of stories that have not been published yet. They're just kind of sitting. And it's because you have to do the business of writing, which is, okay, now that you've written your book and you've got it edited and all that kind of stuff, what's the next step? How are you going to promote it? How are you going to get it out there? What is your distribution plan going to be? What is your marketing distribution? How are you going to make money? How are you going to profit? And those are things too that you really need to collaborate with others, not try to be, a one-woman show. You can do it all. You don't need to be the jack of all trades. You need to really connect with people. And that's what I'm finding, is that when you connect with people who can help take you and elevate you to the next level, you make life much more easier. It's much more easier to handle that part of it when you're not trying to do it all yourself. So that's what I would say.
Okay.
Okay.
What made you want to become a writer?
Um, I think again, just growing up, reading a lot of books. Like I said before, my mom was a librarian, so every summer while kids were going to summer camp and different things like that, I was reading. I was reading books. I was writing book reports. I was doing all those things, all things books. And so I think it was just a natural progression from there. I think it just became a part of who I am. When I was in grade school, I won a contest for a short story. It's a Halloween story. Those short,
Wow.
yes, and I won first place for that. I got my story published in the newspaper, which was a big deal for me. And I got a chocolate pumpkin. And the thing about that is my mom didn't celebrate Halloween. So whenever Halloween would come around, we wouldn't get candy and things like that. So for me to get an award of a chocolate pumpkin was like, I hit the jackpot.
Yes. Yes.
From there, I think just my love of writing just evolved. And like I said, when I was in high school, I used to write a lot of poetry. And I even turned it into a business called Healing Words Poetry, where I would write different poems for different occasions, different special occasions. People, ask me to write for baby showers, for birthdays, for retirements, for graduations, you name it. I was writing poems, and it just turned into a business from there. So it's just always been a part of my life.
Now you didn't say it twice that during the summertime
Yeah.
you was at the library or you was writing book reports. Well,
Yes. Yes.
when I was younger, my mama used to go to the library twice a month.
Oh yeah.
And my mother made me and my brother, it was all year long, especially
Yep.
in the summer. We would get
Yes.
so many books and we had to write book reports.
Same here.
Oh God. But
Same here.
you can get back then I think you can get like 10 books at a time, and I
You
would
could.
books.
That's right.
Yeah, I remember those days. Yes.
Yes, I remember. I think in one summer, I had read like 80 books for the summer. 80 some books. I remember. So yeah.
What projects are you working on right now?
Wow. Yeah. So I have several different projects. I like to keep projects going, even though for some reason I have to complete a project before starting another project. So it's just something, it's just a part of my writing process, is that if I have an idea and it's really strong, I have to go ahead and kind of finish out that idea before starting another. But I do have several rough drafts, I would say, of projects that I then will go back and pick up and finish and complete. So now I have a children's book series that I'm excited about.
Oh wow.
Yes. It's loosely based, very, very loosely based on my childhood growing up. But it deals with things that kids today are dealing with. And how do you as a kid develop leadership qualities? Because I believe that kids today need to be leaders, and they need to develop leadership qualities at a young age. They need to have leadership qualities because peer pressure is real.
Yes.
And a lot of times kids get bullied or they get pressured into doing things that they don't want to do. It's not that they want to do it, they actually don't want to do it, but they don't have
Yes.
the strength and the leadership ability to say no, or to not go along with the crowd, that type of thing. And so I want to create books that develop character, strong character, so that kids can recognize that it's okay to say no, that it's okay to stand up for what you believe in. It is okay that you don't follow the crowd, or that you don't look like someone else, or that you don't dress the same as somebody else. It's okay. And to be your unique you. And so I just think we need more of that. So I'm working on that currently. And I'm also working on a sequel to Everything by Faith. I'm going to hold this up again. Everything by Faith. But I want to talk about faith in the marketplace. Faith in the marketplace. There's a lot of things that happen. Miracles happen in the marketplace. Deals are done in the marketplace. You get to your next level. You meet someone, that can help advance you, in the marketplace. So I want to talk about, how does faith play a role in the marketplace? How is that played out in the marketplace, and how can you, network and close the deals and do things like that, with a vote of confidence, I would say, with a vote of confidence and surety that, your faith will manifest everything you desire.
All right.
Just a few things I'm working on.
Okay. How can readers get in touch with you?
Great question. So yeah, all of the social media links. I have a page, Benita K. Brown, on Facebook. I am at Benita B. Williams on Instagram. People can find me there. I'm also on Twitter, Benita KBW on Twitter. So all of the social media handles, I'm there. I'm on LinkedIn. If they just type in my name, Benita Williams, or if they can go to my website, Benita K. Brown, they can find me there. Also, restination.com. That's, again, Restination with an R instead of a D. Restination.com. They can learn more about my program. And I also have an online writing course. That's what I was sharing before. My Getting Ready to Write is an online do-it-yourself writing course for all of those who keep getting ready to get ready to write, but never really take action. This is a online do-it-yourself, but it kind of holds you accountable to actually getting the first draft of your book done and complete. So you can find that online at benitaswritingacademy.com.
Is there anything you would like to add before we close?
I just want to say thank you so much for this channel. Thank you so much for giving us a platform to be able to share. I'm very honored to be here, and I thank you for the work that you're doing to connect readers with authors. It's important, and I thank you for what you're doing, and just all the best to you and continuing to do that. Do you have any books that you aspire to write, or anything?
I ain't a writer. I'm a reader. Everybody asks me that. Are you a writer? No.
Story into the tale, though.
I
you can tell it.
I'll say this. I passed the gene on to Jamal. He writes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
Well, I'm sure you can give him a ton of tips and ideas.
Oh, he be listening. He be listening to what, a lot of stuff. But he's good.
Very good. Very good. Well, I will say your reviews are like top notch. So I know you got the gift. I know you can write. You're very good at what you do. So absolutely. Anytime you need some, encouragement on that, if you really get that writing bug itch, just let me know.
Okay, before we go, can I play a little game with you?
Okay.
Okay, it's called My Favorites. Where your favorite color?
My favorite color is purple.
Woo!
I love purple.
Perfume.
Wow. I don't do a lot of perfume. Yeah, I don't. I'm more like in natural products, natural soap. So anything with shea butter, anything like that, I'm all for it.
Okay, restaurant.
Favorite restaurant? Anything Italian. I don't have a preference of one particular one, but I would say anything Italian. I love Italian food. So spaghettis and your pastas and different things like that. Love them.
Okay.
Yep.
Snack while you're writing.
Favorite snack while I'm writing? Good question. I would say my favorite is actually a drink. I love chocolate milk.
Really?
So if I've got a glass of chocolate milk, I'm good.
Okay. And last one, hobby as a child.
My favorite hobby as a child?
Okay. Your hobby as a child again?
Yes. So if it's not writing, I would have to say playing basketball. I was very active in sports growing up. We played kickball, softball, and I was actually a part of the basketball team growing up. So I would say playing basketball is my favorite hobby next to writing.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in
You.
today and being interviewed. I really do appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invite. I've enjoyed myself.
All right. This is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews. Happy reading. Bye, y'all.